I'm about to become the head of the department. Really? Then I guess it's about time I run your company into the ground. I unexpectedly bumped into my former boss from the car manufacturer at a fancy sushi restaurant, the same guy who had once conspired to get me fired. He was still looking down on me, boasting about his upcoming promotion. So I gave him a piece of my mind with a smile. When John heard what I said, he looked stunned for a moment but then burst out laughing loudly. You think you could pull that off? No way. Save the jokes for your sleep, you drop-out loser. I retorted, in response to my words. John turned red with anger and started yelling. Just as John grabbed me by the collar and raised his fist, the door to the private room swung open. Seeing the person who appeared, John's face went pale and he began to tremble. My name is Kevin Oakland. I started working at this car manufacturer right out of high school, and at 43, I'm still dedicated to car manufacturing. Since I was a kid, I've loved cars, so when I joined the company, I actively learned all I can about car manufacturing. Now, I'm someone my team can rely on. I'm doing what I love for a living, and I love fulfilling days. Kevin explained. Kevin, today's the test day for the prototype, right? I asked. Yeah, this model has turned out well, Kevin replied. As I was talking with my subordinate John, who is in the development department, appeared. Kevin, is the prototype ready? Everything's set up for testing over there. Kevin confirmed. Good. This new model is great. It has high-tech features that you, with your weak high school dropout brain, could never think of. John mocked. John is an annoying elitist with a college degree, and he often makes derogatory remarks about my lack of a college education. Moreover, since John is also 43, he probably feels a sense of superiority over me. After successfully completing the prototype test, John returned to his station. John can be quite unpleasant, huh? I heard he was giving you a hard time again. Kevin, are you okay? My colleague asked. That doesn't bother me. You can do a good job without a fancy degree. Let's head back to our station, I reassured him. I didn't finish school either, so it's reassuring to see someone like you. Kevin, I'll keep learning and become great at manufacturing just like you, my subordinate said cheerfully, heading back to his manufacturing duties. I was happy to have such motivated subordinates. However, that peace would soon be threatened by John. We had conducted a test of a new car prototype today, and the evaluation showed that there were mistakes that needed to be corrected. This isn't uncommon when you actually start manufacturing. It's common for issues that weren't visible in the design phase to emerge. So we always start by investigating whether the problems are due to poor product quality or design mistakes, then proceed to retest, I explained. More normally, the development and manufacturing departments would discuss smoothly and start remaking the prototype. But for some reason, John was being particularly obstructive this time. Everyone agreed that the likely cause of the defect was a design error by the development department, yet John insisted it was due to sloppy manufacturing. After further discussion, it was agreed that the design needed to be reconsidered. However, John, dissatisfied with this outcome, kept making snide remarks at us in the manufacturing department. Manufacturing jobs are so easy, even a brainless person can do them right. You just follow the blueprints and assemble. John sneered. To work in the development department, you need to be smart enough to graduate from an elite college like I did. Oh, I see, people like you who only finished middle or high school are simply not in my league, he continued arrogantly. Well, even those who only finished middle or high school can do a decent job, you know, I replied calmly. John was being his usual snarky self. When I responded indifferently, he got irritated, grabbed my shirt, and shouted, You just need to shut up and do as I tell you. Got it? Hey, could you let go of me? I retorted. While John and I were glaring at each other, one of the manufacturing department's subordinates hurried over. John, the head of the development department, is calling for you. Tell him I'll be right there. John replied tersely. Understood, the subordinate nodded, then left. After giving his subordinate instructions, John glared at me once more before leaving. Shortly after that incident, I was summoned by the supervisor of the manufacturing department. Kevin, I heard from John. It seems there was some friction with the development department the other day, the supervisor began. No, it wasn't really anything serious. I started to explain. thinking he meant John's aggressive behavior. But the supervisor continued, and it seemed that wasn't the case. It appeared John had fed the manufacturing supervisor some fabricated stories. Is it true that you shouted at John, saying that someone who can only think of designs but can't manufacture them shouldn't be meddling? The supervisor asked. What? No, I didn't say that. I blurted out in surprise at the completely made-up accusation, immediately denying it. The supervisor tapped his forehead with his finger as he continued. So, is it true what they say about you harassing your subordinates? Harassment? No. I haven't done anything like that, I responded, shocked by the unexpected accusation and quickly denying it as well. The supervisor sighed and looked at me again. I've worked with you for many years, Kevin, and I know what kind of person you are. I can't believe you would do such things. However, the development department has been making some rather exaggerated accusations, and we can't just ignore this matter since there's no proof to contradict what John has said. And now, with the suspicion of harassment, I'm sorry, but I have to take this matter up to the companies. Huh? What? No way. I really haven't done anything like harassment. I felt like I'd been hit in the back of the head with a blunt object. All the lies John had told the supervisor had jeopardized my position in a company I'd worked at for decades. Shocked, I stood there as the supervisor listened to my side of the story until the end. Then he said, I believe what you're saying, Kevin, and became my ally. I was relieved that my supervisor believed in my innocence, but the reality waiting for me was harsh. Kevin, I heard you got fired. John, you set this up, didn't you? As a result of the harassment allegations reaching upper management, I was forced to resign, though the supervisor of the manufacturing department defended my innocence. John from the development department had stronger connections with upper management and their verdict sided with him. What are you talking about? Well, even without a low-intellect dropout like you, the manufacturing department won't hurt much. Take it easy, you harassment jerk. Damn you. Shaking with anger, I grabbed John by the shirt. Whoa? Planning to start a fight now? If you do, I won't hesitate to sue you. Haha. John chuckled powerlessly. I let go of John, turning my back on the man I no longer wanted to see. I began packing up my things. I thought it was a waste of time to deal with him anymore. John should have just gone away, but he kept pestering me afterward. How are you going to live from now on? I don't think there's any company that would hire someone who dropped out of high school and was forced to resign over harassment allegations. We'll see. I think I'll be fine. Turning back to John, who seemed to suggest my life was over, I smirked defiantly. The world isn't as sweet as you think, you loser. Irritated by my demeanor, John shouted, but I ignored him and finished packing up, then left the company I had worked at for many years. It was frustrating to be unfairly stripped of my place, but if I just stood there, I'd end up lost. So I took out my smartphone and made a call to a certain person. Time passed and 4 years had gone by since I was forced to resign due to the harassment allegations. Now, I am working in the manufacturing department of another car manufacturer. John said there wouldn't be any company willing to hire me, but in fact, I had been scouted by another car manufacturer. Originally, I had a strong attachment to the company I had long worked for and good relationships, so I had consistently turned down offers to change jobs. However, I had to resign due to the harassment allegations, so I took a position at this new company. Fortunately, Steve from the development department of the new company appreciated my skills in car manufacturing, telling me, if you ever change your mind, come to us anytime. Thanks to him, I didn't falter and could continue doing the job I love in car manufacturing. Steve, the head of the development department at a well-known major car manufacturer, had scouted me because my former workplace was a subcontractor for this car manufacturer. Steve, who frequently visited my old workplace, had seen my work and decided to scout me. It's already been 4 years since Kevin joined us. Time really flies. I'm truly grateful to you for reaching out, Steve. Thank you, Kevin. Your work is truly remarkable. The current head of the manufacturing department will soon be retiring, so I'm entrusting the future of the manufacturing department to you. Steve liked me and often invited me out to eat. And today he had brought me to a fancy sushi restaurant. As our conversation came to a natural pause, I excused myself to go to the bathroom. At my new job, I could work happily and without stress. The colleagues in the manufacturing department were all good people who recognized my skills from the beginning and increasingly trusted me with responsibilities. Incidentally, since this is a well-known major car manufacturer, the salary is better than at my previous job. I am just grateful to Steve. Thinking about all this as I walked down the corridor, leading to the private rooms and checked the time on my smartphone, suddenly someone called out to me from the front. "Isn't that Kevin? Huh?" When I looked towards the voice, there stood John, someone I never wanted to see again. "What are you doing in a place like this, a high-end sushi restaurant? Isn't this place for losers who dropped out of school?" John, whom I hadn't seen in 4 years, hadn't changed a bit. Just like when I left my job, this guy was looking down on me with a smirk. I gripped my phone tightly and stared straight at John, retorting, "Where I am is none of your business, John." Hey, calling your former boss by his first name. You become quite important, haven't you? Are you living off some part-time job now? This guy, who had no idea I was working at a better job than he was, laughed loudly in a mocking manner. "Seriously, my life has been a mess because you didn't like me. You set me up, made up lies about me, insulting and bullying the manufacturing department staff. I can't compete with a smart elite college graduate like you." "Well, you finally admitted defeat," I said meekly. John began speaking, boastfully with a triumphant smile. "In the end, it's the smart guys who rise in this world. Even the higher-ups believed what I said over your former manufacturing boss's work. They didn't doubt for a second that I might be lying. Too bad for you, Kevin. This is the difference in class between a high school dropout like you and an elite college graduate like me." John continued to boast about the numerous dirty tricks he used to get me fired. Surprisingly, he used far more cunning methods than I had heard about to get me ousted. "John, you really are smart." I deliberately complimented him. John got even more full of himself. "Of course, I use my superior intellect to get rid of anyone in my way, and I'm on the fast track to promotion. Soon, I'll be department head." "Really? Well, I'm about to ruin your company," I countered with a smile. John looked momentarily stunned, then burst out laughing. "As if you could do that. Don't make jokes while you're asleep, you high school dropout loser. Since getting fired from our company, your life must have been a joke." "I don't mean I'll actually destroy the company. I mean there won't be a company left for you to work at," I clarified. Hearing this, John's face turned bright red with anger. "What are you saying? You're going to get me fired?" "That's right." Now it was my turn to look triumphant as I answered. John grabbed my collar aggressively. Just as John raised his fist towards me, the door of the private room opened. John and I looked over to see Steve standing there. The moment John saw Steve, he turned pale and started trembling. "Steve, why are you here?" Steve often visits my former workplace, so the two of them know each other. "Hello, John. I came here to have dinner with my subordinate, Kevin." "Your subordinate, Kevin?" As soon as he heard Steve's words, John looked at me with wide eyes. "You're working at such a famous major car manufacturer now? Why didn't you say anything? You just assumed I was doing some part-time job." Steve, having watched our exchange, cleared his throat and began to speak to John. "Kevin had excellent manufacturing skills even back when he was at your company, so I had been inviting him to work with us for a long time, though he initially declined." "What?" "He turned down such a good offer." Hearing Steve's words, John looked at me with a face of in disbelief. John said, "In a way, I have to thank you. Because of you, Kevin came to work for our company." "Yes, thanks to you setting him up and pushing him to resign." "Oh, how did you know that?" "You were having this conversation right outside my private room, so I heard everything." The moment John heard those words, he grabbed his head and sat down on the spot. In fact, I knew that Steve and John were acquainted, so I deliberately provoked John in front of Steve's private room to expose all the evil deeds John had done. "Steve, please don't mention this to my company." "Oh, I'll definitely bring this to the attention of your company's higher-ups. Please, anything but that." When Steve said this firmly, John pleaded with him tearfully. "By the way, I recorded our conversation on my phone's voice recorder. This is undeniable evidence. Kevin, you bastard." Before entering in the private room, I had taken out my phone to check the time, and that's when I ran into John. I quickly started the voice recorder at that moment. "Tough luck, John. Even a so-called lowly high school dropout like me can come up with this much. Damn. You set me up, you coward. Isn't it you who used dirty tricks to get Kevin to resign? Who's the real coward here? When Steve said this, John fell silent. He probably had nothing to say in return. So what happened to John? Afterwards, he was given a resignation notice from the company. The workplace was in an uproar over the sudden resignation of the man who was promised the next department head position. This happened because Steve reported the incident to my former company's higher-ups with a voice recording in hand. With someone like John in your subcontractor company, we can't work together with peace of mind. Either John resigns or your company stops doing business with us. Choose one. Faced with Steve's ultimatum, AQPS chose to let John go. Losing business with a famous major car manufacturer would have been a severe blow to the company. Additionally, the higher-ups were furious because they had trusted John, who turned out to be lying without remorse. John was called in by the higher-ups and received a severe reprimand. The arrogant and prideful John left the company while being ridiculed with "serves you right, haha" by the development department employees. Meanwhile, I'm working hard every day with reliable colleagues in the manufacturing department of a famous major car manufacturer, finding my job fulfilling. The head of the manufacturing department, who has been leading us, is about to take early retirement before reaching the mandatory retirement age, and soon I will be supporting this car manufacturer as the head of the lead. I am currently in the midst of prototype testing for a new model with the development and manufacturing departments working together to create the best car possible. I still have a good relationship with Steve, and we regularly go out to eat together. Recently, something surprising happened when Steve and I went to a bar. The staff member who came to take our order was none other than John. It seems that John is now working part-time at the bar. Hey, is that John? Oh, Kevin. John quickly looked down to hide his face from me and then recited the usual lines. As a staff member, may I take your order, sir? After Steve and I placed our order, John tried to leave quickly, but Steve stopped him. John, that outfit suits you well. Steve can be quite a character. John forced a smile with a strained face and said, "Excuse me," as he quickly left to attend a private room. I later heard that John's misdeeds against me had spread to all the car manufacturers. Normally, something like that wouldn't happen. But apparently John was disliked by his former colleagues, the employees who had worked. John spread his bad reputation to their acquaintances at other car manufacturers without anyone asking them to. Because of this, John was rejected by every car manufacturer he applied to. John, an elite college graduate who had been active in the development department for many years, thought he would quickly find another job after leaving his previous one, but reality was very different. He must have been devastated. With no job, he would be out of the streets. So he had no choice but to work part-time at a bar at night while job hunting during the day. When he forced me to resign, he taunted me, saying, "No company will hire a high school dropout like you." But here I am, thriving at a famous major car manufacturer. Ironically, it's John, the elite college graduate, who can't find a company to hire him and is forced to live a part-time job life. Life is unpredictable. This experience has taught me that no matter how smart and talented someone is, if they put others down, they will eventually be abandoned by those around them. I want to cherish my current environment and spend my days appreciating the people around me.